I never thought that there would be this many people out there interested in powwows. But I think if you tell your story, you'll attract the people that want to hear that story. You'll attract the right
To
people.
all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magic Cheers? Welcome to another edition of Talk About the Magic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a wonderful day, week, whenever you're hearing this night so far. I have a fantastic guest today on the show. His name is Paul Gowder. He is the founder of powwows.com as well as paulgowder.com. I met Paul in the group that I was in with a couple of other awesome people with Lou Mangello. And I say this in the show, but he just every time I went to class and heard him talk and discuss what he was going through in his own kind of his own business, his own site and everything. It blew me away because I say this out of respect to everyone in the group and obviously including myself. I don't want to try to put myself down in any negative way, but I think we were all, in a certain level of what we understood and how we were trying to accomplish. I saw Paul really, regardless if he understood what was being told he needed to do or not, he did it and he got it done. And it was impressive. It was amazing to see the way he was able to kind of just carry on in the class. And he just, the website's phenomenal. The live streams are phenomenal that he does. And he still finds time, of course, to enjoy Disney, which is also a plus. Now, I do want to just remind you guys also, please be sure to check out the store. As many of you know who listen to the show, I did jump into the water, and I'm actually doing quite a bit of different stuff as far as shirt design and everything. But for you guys, we'll talk about the magic. I wanted to kind of focus on just with the Disney niche so far right now. Until I kind of start doing a little more on that I'm going to be posting up. But it's exciting because I am doing actually a lot of local stuff. They always say find locals first. And I have been blessed enough to find a couple of people locally who have enough faith in me to get going. So I'm actually starting to make shirts there for a couple different places, a couple different churches. And it's exciting because that's something I wasn't really expecting right off the bat. But you could also check out the store over at talkaboutthemagic.com/shop. Of course, I have that in the show notes, but there I got two designs kind of pertaining to they're Disney-inspired designs, and so I hope you guys will check that out. I do want to please ask for your forgiveness 100%. I did an update on my GarageBand, and apparently, and this is my fault, 100% my fault, on my recording. It was an update on the Mac, I should say, not the GarageBand. But it was up on the Mac. And I did not do what I was supposed to. I did not necessarily check. Out of all the days, too, right? Because I always check. Every guest who comes on, you can pretty much ask them. I always say, hey, you can say a couple words. Just want to make sure the levels are good. Everything's okay. And for some reason, I don't know what it was this time. I don't know if it's because I had just done the update or something. I just did not do it. So Paul Gowder sounds amazing. He sounds fantastic. It's going to sound like I'm talking with no microphone. You can still hear me. It's not like it's very low, but it's just not going to be the same quality. And basically because, yes, all the settings were messed up in my computer after the update, and that is my fault. So I do apologize to you guys. Like I said, it's not like you can't hear me. It's not like, it's staticky or nothing like that. It still sounds good in the sense that you can hear me and understand what I'm saying. It just doesn't have the same quality as Paul does. So I do apologize for that. And Paul, I do apologize for that as well. I was completely shocked that happened. I could not believe it happened. But like I said, I didn't want to, miss anything with the show. So much value in here. And, like I said, you can still hear me. And so it's hopefully you guys can bear with me there. And I do apologize again for that. But without further ado, let's get into our interview with Paul Gowder. Hello, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. You and I first met through a group that we were together with Lou Mangello, and it was definitely for me a very, very fantastic experience and helped my show kind of take off in the direction it was meant to be going. And I know you were I know you were there and you were part of the group, but man, you were killing it. You were like, it's amazing what you're doing, and I'm excited to have you on because I think what you're doing is pretty incredible, and it's definitely something. The type of things you're doing is definitely something different than we've had on the show. So I'm very excited to have you on. But before we get into everything that's going on, with what you're doing, let's if you could just give a brief background of who Paul is.
Okay, so yeah, we met as part of Lou Mangello's business coaching group, and he is just have to go back to that. He has really helped. I know he helped you, and it was like pouring fire on what I was doing. He really helped me focus, and I've had powwows.com for a long time. I feel like the last couple of years he's really helped me hone in on some things and take it to the next level. So I guess to back up. Powwows.com is my website that I run, and it is a Native American community, and it really came about accidentally. I was in graduate school at the University of South Carolina. This was back in the mid-'90s, so I'm dating myself a little bit, but it was back. The web was just getting started. It was pretty new, and those graduate school days, I had some downtime during the day, and I was trying to teach myself how to do this whole web thing. And I remember going to a local computer store or computer software store, Babbage's. I don't know if y'all had those where you are. And they had this thing called Internet in a Box. Wow. And so I bought this piece of software. Yeah, really, Internet in a Box. Yeah, the whole thing right there in one box. But I bought it, and basically what it was is an early Dreamweaver. It was a way, it was an HTML editor. And so I just started building HTML, trying to learn this whole thing and figure out how it worked. And I built two, I guess, web pages back then. And it was really, I built two things about what I knew. At the time, I was really big into Star Wars toy collecting, and I was dancing and singing at Native American powwows. So I built both those websites. The Star Wars one is still out there online in the same way it was in 1996. It's still there. It's kind of funny. I leave it there just so I can kind of see what happened. Powwows.com, it's changed a lot. I put that up there, and it was really one of the first Native American things on the web, and people started coming and asking questions. And, at first it was really just pages about, what is a powwow? If you go to a powwow, what to expect, what kind of etiquette is there, what should you do, what shouldn't you do, and what are the basic dance styles, those kind of things. And I started getting lots and lots of questions, and from people who wanted to know more about powwows, but then I also started getting a lot of emails from powwow dancers, and they wanted to connect with each other. And after a while, I found a way to put a forum on the site, and from there, it really just took off. Our community exploded. And it kind of it's morphed a few times from there, but it's grown into what it is now, and it was all because of the community and really making sure we stayed engaged and listened to our followers and our fans, and really took care of that community. But that's really how it grew is because of those people wanting to connect with each other, and it's still like that today.
And so, roughly, when did you actually start? Powwow site. What do you remember roughly the actual time, year, as far as, was it 97, 98, 99, 2000?
It was 96 is when I really got started. I was doing a little bit in 95, but 96 is when I think I really started doing some things with it. And I can't remember when I think I bought the domain name in like 97, 98, something like that. For a while I ran it. It was a local internet provider, and the address was like scsn.net/user/pgowder/powwow. It was terrible. But the early search engines found it and indexed it, and it worked. So it wasn't until later that I actually bought the domain name. But yeah, it was about 96 when I started the whole thing.
Now I love this because it goes again. This kind of goes with Lou's story, which a lot of Magic here probably are very familiar with if they listen to his podcast. But I love this because it goes back to it's not about being the first. It's about, not so much being the first, but about sticking with it. I mean, you started in 96, 97, and I mean, the internet has changed insanely since then. Like, it has been a huge dip where things come in, things go out, and you've stuck through it, the whole time. And it's amazing because I just think, like you're saying, you started it, but what if you didn't start it? You know what I mean? Where would you be at right now? What would be like? Right. Who knows who else would have been out there who would have started something like this? And it's incredible because the site, I personally enjoy it because of the fact that you get to see so many people like this come together and share what their legacy is. They share what their stories are, and it's so incredible to see that. Me personally, I have my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and my grandfather. I believe he had some Indian blood in him, and I just completely forgot to ask my mom what it was. But it's interesting because when you see this, you're getting to see, this. You're getting to see real culture happening, and that's really rare nowadays. You know what I mean? And that's what I love, because recently you added the live feeds, which is incredible. I mean, you guys are doing amazing with that. And just, can you kind of go into how frustrating that can be at times to do live feed, the way, especially because the way you do it. It's not like you have one camera and, just a small microphone. I mean, you guys have musicians, you guys have different drum, going on. You guys have different music happening, different angles. So what are some of the, frustrations that you face when you're doing something like that?
Yeah. Well, I'll back up just a bit. Yeah. One of our goals of powwows, and it was nice to hear you say that. I guess one of our missions is that we want to make sure we present authentic Native culture to the public. We also, want to cater to the Native American crowd too, and we have content for them. But for the people out there that are looking to explore Native culture, we want to show them what true, authentic Native culture is. And we do that through, our stories, our articles, photos, and our live video. And we've really, our live video has really taken off. We actually, the first time we ever streamed a powwow live was in 2004. Again, it was one of those things that was not really intended. The Red Earth Powwow in Oklahoma City called me, and it's another one of just, where would we have gone if this had not happened? But they called me and said, there's some people that were organized that were involved in the rodeo, and they said, we're on the rodeo circuit, and there's people that stream rodeos all the time. Can you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I can try. So I researched it and figured out how I could do it. In 2004, it was a lot different. And then, I found out when they wanted me to stream it. It was like the first weekend in June in 2004. And I was actually scheduled to be in a friend's wedding. I was one of his groomsmen that weekend. And I was like, man, I told the people in Oklahoma, I was like, look, I just can't do it. There's no way I can get there. I've already committed to this. I can't let, my friend down. And they were like, well, the wedding's on Saturday. What if we fly you in for Friday and we'll fly you back out? I was like, if you really want to do that, we can do that. So that's what happened. They flew me in Thursday night. We streamed the powwow all day Friday. And I flew home Saturday and actually beat the bride and groom to the But yeah, we streamed all day Friday, and it was amazing because, again, we had, we had our community and we had our forum and we had a chat room going on, and, people coming together. And even to this day, I still get these comments where people who are not able to travel, or we get a lot of people overseas, or, a lot of people that are just not in good health, or for whatever reason, they're just not able to travel to a powwow that weekend. They all email us and say, this is amazing. Thank you. You've brought our culture to us. And so the streams are just amazing. And that day we streamed the powwow till like 7:00 at night. And then they had a concert, and they kind of closed the powwow and had a Native American rock band, Indigenous, come out and perform. And before that, they had to set up the arena, in a concert format, and they set up chairs for 2 hours. Wow. And people watched it. It was the craziest thing. And that's what, I always tell people when we talk about live streaming, that to me told me how important live streaming is to a community, even back there in 2004, that people would sit there, be engaged, and talk with each other while chairs were being set up for 2 hours. It was amazing. You know, it was more about, it wasn't about what they were watching. It was about the fact that this community finally had a chance to get together and watch something. So that was our first one. And we've kind of evolved since then. You know, now live streaming the technology we can use is so much better. We do a lot of Facebook Lives, you know, with just a phone. But our powwow streams now, we are using livestream.com's hardware. We set up 4 cameras. We have a wireless camera so we can go all over the arena and get to all the singers that are in different places. It's a full production now. Takes 2 of us usually or more to run it. It's a lot of fun now, you know, professional sound and all that. It gets kind of complicated, but it's so much fun. And, you know, we still have a chat room and interact with people during the event. And so it's really cool to be able to bring that to people. And we had one in April. We streamed the Gathering of Nations live. That's the biggest powwow in the country. And we reached 160 countries around the world with the live stream. Yeah, it was really amazing how far it spread.
That's incredible. And again, I mean, there's so many points to that, in the fact that if you would have said, no, I have a wedding, I'm sorry, and they said, we'll fly you, and you said, you know what, I just wouldn't feel comfortable because I might miss the wedding, what would have happened? Like, you know what I mean? I love it because, you know, we kind of, again, in life, we are very, very quick to kind of go through our doubts and our reasons to not do something or take action on something we're wanting to do, or even if it's an opportunity that could benefit us greatly. It's kind of an immediate thing that we go to, and unfortunately that stops a lot of people. And it's more like, look, sometimes you do have to be prepared for those opportunities, and whether it might be a tight squeeze, you might have to be running to that altar to be at your friend's wedding, you still should be taking these opportunities because you never know where they're going to lead. And I mean, it's amazing, like you're telling your story about, you know, them putting up the chairs and everything. And what I love about that is I find myself doing that. I go on to the site and I watch the live streams, or I guess they're, you know, now they're, you know, past streams, and I find myself watching while they're just kind of like announcing what's going to be happening, you know, next. And I find myself just being intrigued and just watching. It just feels, because it feels good for me just to kind of learn about this stuff, and I find it very interesting and everything. So it's like what you're saying. You never know who else is interested, and it could be something that you may think is not a big deal. Like obviously, if you and I probably would understand this, and anyone else who's into like the digital world and video. That's a no-no. You don't want to show, you know, putting up the chairs. That's not professional. You know, you want to just, you want to keep it straight to the meat. You want to make sure that it's right at the point. You want to make sure that it's, you know, action from the beginning to the end. Yet here you were doing something like this, and people were still engaging and actually creating probably a stronger bond through this because they're talking, you know, throughout the whole process. So I mean, that's incredible. That's so awesome. And so, you know, the purpose of the podcast is to help others who are listening hopefully get inspired and encouraged to make that leap toward their dream or whatever it is they have, a goal or a passion. And that's why we have people like you on the show, because you guys are doing that. You guys are following what you have. You had an idea that started, you know, with a certain thing and now has grown to so much more. So that's why I ask, you know, what are some of those things where it kind of gets like, oh, this was tough. This was, you know, because I want people to understand it's not necessarily a instant win. You know, it's not necessarily a right away, you know, we did it, we made it, let's pack up, we're done. You know, it could definitely take some time. So speaking on that, and speaking on the fact that, like I said, the internet had changed so much, and even live streaming has changed so much, you know, how much has your mindset changed from when you started to where you are today?
Oh, it a lot. You know, you were saying though that, you know, challenges and how things have kind of progressed on the internet. I'll tell you, I don't remember when this was. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago. The site made a major shift. We started out in '96, and those years after, we built the forum, and we were very forum centric. for a long time, and the forums drove everything. That's where we posted photos. That was where we posted stories. That's where all of our users came for information. That's where they came to interact with each other. We had a crazy forum. We were actually listed in the top forums on vBulletin. We had over 1 million posts at one point and several 100,000 members. People were literally posting thousands of times a day. It was huge amount of engagement and traffic. And then Facebook hit. And people found that there was another place that they could go and talk to each other. Yeah. And I remember there were some difficult nights, and I was getting messages from the community saying, Powwows was good while it lasted, but powwows.com's dead. Facebook's killed it. It's over. You just need to pack up.
Wow.
And I got a lot of messages like that. I did surveys trying to figure out what we could do differently, and I heard that over and over again. Y'all are just dead. It's over. Social media is, they didn't use the word social media. They used the word, just Facebook.
Yeah.
But everybody's gone. Nobody's going to come back there. And it took me a little while to find a new direction, because we were so everything we did then was generated by users. Our photos, I took some photos, but our photos were submitted by individuals. Our powwow calendar, all of that was submitted by other people. We didn't generate any of our own content really, except for the live streams and our photos. And, I went to other sites and just looked around and tried to figure out, what do I do now? And we decided to make the shift and start generating our own content and to become a resource of, not really of native news, because there's plenty of that out there, but a place to, I guess you use the word curate, native content, to find content that we thought our community in particular would find interesting, and we would write about that and we would highlight that, whether it be a new product, an artist, whatever it was. We found that content and we started sharing it, and it worked. It took a little while. It took a couple of years for that to kick in, but that now it's reversed, and those emails I got were Facebook's killing you. It's now Facebook that has helped us grow. Yeah. We now have 650,000 fans on Facebook. That drives a lot of our traffic. It's crazy how we've been able to flip that. But it's one of those things that this whole entrepreneurship thing, it's not easy, and there's a lot of those kind of things that happen. We have to sit back and kind of evaluate where you are. It was tough.
So what are some of the things? Yeah. So what are some of the things that you did? Because right now you're saying all this, and I could definitely tell you that is way above anything probably I would have been able to handle. Because you're right. You have a successful website, and then Facebook comes out, and Facebook pretty much immediately begins dominating. They took out MySpace. They're killing it, and you have every reason to kind of believe what everyone's saying, that people would rather just go here. And they can do everything they want here. They're not going to come to the site. And you're right. You have also grown and been, actually have gotten so much more success with the power of Facebook. But what did you do to get through that? Was there a lot of I'm going to go to a padded room and throw some plates around? Was it just kind of, thought and prayer or meditation? Was it because you're right. As an entrepreneur, that's the one thing that a lot of people face, that breaking point, it feels like, because it seems like everything is going wrong. It seems like nothing is going to happen. Nothing is working. And I think a lot of us, I could definitely say a lot of us don't know what to do when that happens. We end up getting frustrated. We end up getting angry. We end up getting feel like quitting. So what is just something that you did that you feel like kind of helped you go through that, weather that storm?
First off, I had really good support from my wife. She was my rock through that. I could come home and I could talk to her about it. And I had a great support network of friends, a couple in particular that really helped me. I would bounce ideas off of them. Which one of the things, now as an aside, having somebody like Lou and having a group like Lou has put together, if you are an entrepreneur, you need to find that group out there to be able to bounce ideas off of, because it is hard and you need that support network. But, it took me a while to find the right formula. And I tried lots of different things during that time. I started some other websites, like native theme websites. I even started one at the time because back then you had Facebook, you had MySpace, Twitter was just starting, and then there was several other social networks. And so people on our forum, there were threads out there where they would say, okay, my username on the forums is this, but you can follow me on MySpace under this, and here's my Twitter handle,
Yeah.
And we actually started a website directory where people could list themselves and all of their social network links, because it was hard to track everybody back then. And that was good for about 3 months.
Wow.
So we really did try several different things. It wasn't that we just woke up one day and had the right idea. We had to experiment, but through it all, I guess one of the best parts about powwows.com has always been that we have a powwow calendar, and that's been one of our greatest resources that people keep coming back to. So I kept seeing, even with Facebook, I saw that traffic was good and solid, and I saw that people were still sharing those events. So I knew we still had value, and that was the thing that kind of helped me keep going. Is I knew I had resources that people wanted and that they wanted to share. So it was a matter of just finding and generating more of those type of resources, and that's where I started doing. When we started generating our own content, I started really basic, and I did things like, and I still do this today. Every Friday we post an update for our powwow calendar. Here are the events that are coming up in the next week, things you want to look out for. So we would post that on our blog every Friday. Every Wednesday we would post the eBay find of the week. I go, and I still do this now. I go on eBay and I find some powwow item that has been listed and show that to our community. And people love that because we find, unique things that people didn't really know were out there on eBay. And so we did things like that and we did a video of the week. So we started generating slowly like that. And then I was able to get a couple of writers that started generating original content. And it just kind of built on itself from there. But it was experimenting and trial and error before we found the right formula.
And again, that goes back to, it is good, definitely, because you're able to kind of express different, venues, different avenues of who you are and what you're trying to do. But that also can be frustrating. I mean, especially if you're doing work and you're like 3 months later, well, that's done. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to something else now. That's intense. What would you then suggest then to somebody, who maybe wants to start, maybe they're looking into getting their own website, because again, the internet's changed so much, and it's so difficult now because you hear people, you don't even need a website, just do this, or focus only on YouTube, or you should just really try to do Facebook ads and grow this way, and it can get really overwhelming when you realize, like, okay, what's going on? Who do I believe, kind of deal. So what would you suggest to somebody who's just they're starting, they're barely starting? What would you think is kind of important in the technical side of things to kind of make sure that they have implemented in their plan, through all of this stuff that is being available to them?
Yeah, I actually had a friend approach me with that very question just recently. He wants to start a business doing fishing tours, taking people and teaching them how to fish in some of the local lakes and rivers. And so we kind of talked through that. And, I think the most important thing, and so I try to tell him, the most important thing is to find what's the story that you're going to tell, what's that message that you are going to deliver that people want to hear. What is that killer resource that you're going to provide? What's that message that people are going to just crave to come to you for? Figure out what that is. And for him, we were talking. He's going to start telling stories, his fishing stories, and not tall tales of how big he was, but start giving those tips of what you actually do when he goes fishing, and take people through that. I think give people that experience, and if you do that enough, then they'll come to you. They'll know that you are a resource, and they'll come to you to actually pay for that service. But you got to find. And Lou says this too. What's your story? What are you telling? And I really think now it's more important to tell the story as opposed to trying. Like you said, there's so many different ways you can do it. With WordPress and Squarespace and Facebook. For him, I said, just keep it simple. Go start a Facebook page and just start posting Facebook Lives. I said, and if it works and you start getting, following, then let's talk about a website. But starting out, just tell your story and go from there. It's so hard now in the internet to make, to come in here and think, you're going to be an overnight success and you're going to be the next Lou Mangello and you're going to quit your attorney job and move from New Jersey to Florida and play Disney all day.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen too much. So I try to tell people, it's probably not going to be your full-time job. Powwows is still not my full-time job. But if you find that thing that you really are passionate about and find the story that you want to tell, just tell it and be consistent, and you'll attract the right people, and it'll grow from there.
I love that. And yeah, keeping it simple. That's so true. Because again, it's so complicated now, and there's so many do this, do that, and I think it's just a big cycle, right? I mean, in the beginning, it was all about how you can look better than a simple camera on a webcam. And so you started buying lights that were meant for YouTube, cameras meant for YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
You had Canons and all this stuff. And now it's so saturated with that style of video, people find it refreshing to see somebody talking just to their phone and talking straight
Right.
from their iPhone directly to you. So that's some fantastic advice coming from someone like you who has the site that they have as far as keeping stuff. So hopefully, guys, especially if you're starting, listen to that. I know it's easy to just. I personally have been sucked into stuff like that of where especially you want to pay something and you feel like if you pay this and they're going to teach you how to be overnight, and I've gone through all of those little things, and that's why Lou was actually my last one. I remember telling my wife, I said, if this doesn't work, it's done. I'm wrapping everything up. It's because I just had wasted so much money and got nothing. I was so frustrated. And again, it wasn't about, like you just said, Lou kind of taught me, it's not about that overnight success. It's not about, trying to, if you're trying to get $1 million, there's a lot of better ways to do it than, pursuing your passion or your dream, because you're right. A lot of times doing that isn't necessarily going to make you rich, but it's going to make you happy. And that's a huge difference. You could be doing something you're not enjoying and making your $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is you wanted to do. Or you could be doing something that actually brings you joy. And even if that means you're still working a part-time or you're still working your 9 to 5, you can still be doing this and actually changing other people's lives around you and changing your own life for the better. So why wouldn't you take an opportunity and do that? So I love that. Yeah, definitely keeping it simple. I hope really opens up the Years of Magic Cheers and helps them to understand how important it is just to get out there and start sharing your story.
Yeah, I think you said something important there too. It's like I said, I'm not full time with Powwows. It's my side job. It's the people now, it's the side hustle.
Yeah.
But it's something I enjoy, and it is something it gives me that creative outlet. But I highly recommend, if you have something you're passionate about, do it, because it will maybe it's not gonna you're not gonna become the Pat Flynn and have those numbers, but it has provided us with and Lou reminds me of this when I have bad days. It provides me of the lifestyle that I want to lead. I'm able to travel with my family and able to, when we want to take a weekend off and go somewhere and take that time to be together as a family. I'm not I think, if I didn't have powwows, I would probably be in one of those, 80-hour a week jobs and traveling all the time to be able to, to support my family. And that's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be able to come home at night and be with my family on the weekends and give them the opportunity, to go to Disney and visit Lou or whatever it is. And that, I think people should set reasonable expectations that, maybe you're not going to be the next Lou Mangello, but hey, maybe it'll pay for that next trip to Disney World. Temper your expectations and keep doing what you're passionate about. It will pay off.
Yeah, and definitely. And what's true about that too is if you start with your expectations, like you're saying, at a reachable level, once you reach it, guess what? You got to set a new one, and that's going to be a little higher. That's going to be a little, tougher to get to. But once you reach that, you get to the next one. And speaking of which, because I was about to bring this up right now too, and I think this is a good segue to get into it. You have your own site, which is the Gowder.com, and let's go into this just briefly, of course, because I don't want you to feel like, oh, you're just, I don't want to put you on the spot is what I'm trying to say. I don't want you to feel like you're trying to sell.
Okay.
But I do like this because there's, like I said, there's so much noise out there. And one thing that frustrated me when I was doing all of that and I was trying to do this, trying to get, 1 million subscribers on YouTube, trying to do like all of that. One thing that frustrated me the most was that everybody ended up kind of sounding the same, which was basically like what they were doing was they were using kind of a one story and that's it. And it was like, if you didn't fit this story, you're kind of in trouble because, this was really the only way to get to where you wanted to get. So, what frustrated me, like I said, was not finding someone who wasn't interested in just selling, but someone who was interested in me. And so, like I said, Lou was a great experience in for me because he was interested in us. I mean, he took the time to talk to each and every one of us and everything like that. So, and I'm going to go ahead and assume as well that you are the same way. You aren't just saying, hey, do this. And if they're not successful, you say, well, too bad, that's your fault. I'm assuming you really want to help people out there. So let's get into your site of what it is, that it's meant to do, what it's meant to help to achieve. For people like me, myself included, because whether we want millions of people listening to our podcast or our websites or whatever, that's one thing compared to we also do need an audience. You know what I mean? The difference is striving for 1 million people who aren't listening and striving for the 1 to 1,000 people who are. And I think that's where we lose our focus. We want that million because that number looks so pretty. It looks so good on our phone or on our following stats. But if those million aren't even giving us the time of day, what does that matter? I'd much rather now get the 1 to 100 to 200, 300, 400 people who truly are listening and who are truly, dedicated to the show and trying to better themselves because of it. So, let's get into your site a little bit as far as what is it you offer there? What are some, is it meant for the beginner? Is it meant for the more, advanced person who's trying to build their status online, or how does it work here?
Sure. Again, I have to thank Lou. He was one of the people that pushed me to put that out there. But yeah, paulgowder.com is I want to be a resource for people wherever you are on your journey to help you find what your story is and find the best way to tell that story. My strengths, I think we kind of talked about it, is the live streaming. I've done a lot with kind of figuring out what's best in the best place to tell your story and those kind of things. So I think I can help people with that. And that's really what it is. It's just, I've worked with a few local businesses here in town and some friends, and it's really just getting in there, regardless of the size of the business or whatever, but figuring out what is that core message? What is it that you provide your followers? What is it that people come to you for? And let's find the best way to tell that story. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's how I'm trying to help people.
I love that. And again, yeah, I mean that's the key, like you said, finding out your strength. What is it you're trying to do and growing? And it's the reason why I bring it up again is, like I said, I think it's awesome when people who are successful in what they're doing are willing to help others and truly help others. And in your case in particular, with powwows.com, on the outside, it might seem like that's not a very, successful niche. That's not a very, why are you going to get into something like that? You should, and the reason why I like it is because that is such a unique, subject in the sense of how you've made it grow so big and everything. That to me is a huge benefit for people who are in our situation, like podcasts, like musicians, like, maybe designers, art designers and stuff. Because a lot of stuff we see again online where they're like, grow, grow, grow. It really is more for marketing, more for marketers, how to get clients, how to do this.
Yeah.
To me, I just never understand that because I'm like, I understand if I'm a marketer, why I would want to learn that. But I'm like, but I'm not a marketer. Why are you telling me why are you telling me these different tips that seem more for marketers? So I love it because you have a unique niche that I think a lot of people can relate to when they say, look, this is what I do. I make bedazzled hats. Nobody wants that. And you can say, you know what? There is somebody who wants that. You never know. And let's find the audience and a way to contact that audience for you. And I think that's really awesome. So guys, of course, all this will be in the show notes. So you guys can check out, both sites. I highly recommend checking out both sites. Mostly because, number one, you can learn a lot just from powwows.com in the sense of how it's set up and everything that's being done, and also because it's just really, really amazing to watch. And then, number two, also going to Gowder.com, I can vouch. This is a guy who, in the class with me, I saw, like I said, I don't think you missed, I don't think you missed one class, did you? If you did one, I think you went on vacation or something. You think you went to one of Disney cruise or something. but yes. It was amazing being in the class with you, and it was awesome to have you there and hear your stories. And I think what was cool for me personally is because I was barely starting. I'm still, definitely a small fish in the pond. But it was amazing to hear someone like you who, in my mind, I would have thought, oh, that's where I want to be, because then it's all daisies. It's all perfect. Never a problem. To hear you, share the things that you were going through, I really just broke down a lot of walls and a lot of kind of fake little, ideas I had in my mind of what, quote unquote success is. And so to me, it makes me want to reach for those numbers like you have, but I want to reach them the way you did. I don't want to try to do it quick. I don't want to try to buy. I don't want to try to just tell a bunch of sugary stories and try to get people tricked into it. No, I want to be real. I want to share what my story is, and then hopefully people can relate and join us. But it is time now for our Disney Power Round.
And now it's time for the Disney Power Round, where we talk favorite parks, tips, and tricks for your magical Disney trip. Let's bibbity-bobbity do this.
So, yeah, so and I know you just recently came back from a cruise, right?
We went. When was our last cruise? October. We went on one in October.
Did you didn't go to the one that you went to the one in Florida or that went off from Galveston?
We went from Florida, and it was actually our 20th wedding anniversary, and it was during Hurricane Matthew. Our cruise was perfect, not a problem. We were over in the Gulf of Mexico. We never got within 300 nautical miles of the storm, but we had, it's one of those unique things. We got an extra night on the cruise because we couldn't come home. So our 7-day cruise turned into an 8-day cruise. It was fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. All right. So, well, the point is you are a person who loves Disney as much as we do. So, first question is, what's your favorite park and what is one thing you love about it?
Magic Kingdom, for sure. For me, I could sit up on the second story of the train station and watch Main Street all day long. To me, there's nothing like walking down Main Street, smelling the popcorn, smelling the cookies baking, and hearing the sights. That is awesome to me. And being able to sit in a place where you see those kids coming in and you see their face the first time they get to see the castle, and they realize that they're there in the park, and there's characters right there in the hub, and the Magic Kingdom by far.
Oh, I love that, and I'm the same way. I love doing that. And then it hits me that we paid so much money to get there, so I get up and then I get on the ride. But it's so true. I love walking Main Street. I love the smells, the noise. you can't match it anywhere. So yeah, well, I mean, if you've never been to Disney World, guys, that's a treat for sure, just to experience something like that for the first time. So what would you give? What tip would you give for the first time Disney goer?
All right, I'm gonna do a. We'll keep going back. I'm gonna do a Lou. I'll roll a couple tips into one. It's to, of course, you need to do your research. Disney World is now a place where you can't just walk in blind. So you need to do some research. But once you've done all that, I think it's important. When you walk through those gates and you come underneath the train station and you see Main Street open, it's important to realize that Walt built this as a place to get away from reality and to be immersed in that experience. And I always tell parents that when they're taking their kids for the first time, I said, this is where you get to be a kid too. Don't get caught up in the too much in the I gotta be, our ADRs at 8:20, we gotta be here. Take a minute when you can and enjoy those little moments. Even my wife and I still talk about on our first trip, one of our favorite memories, or first trip with our daughter, one of our favorite memories is we spent a day with her walking around the World Showcase, and we got over to France, I think it was, and she was in her belle dress, and she just stopped and just danced around the pavilion like nobody was watching. She got up in a flower bed and literally stopped and smelled the flowers and just danced and ran around.
Wow.
And that's one of our favorite memories, that whole day. And it was completely unplanned. And we just let her go and kind of lead the way. And that's when, you got to put the schedules aside sometimes and just be a kid and enjoy those moments with your kids.
That's awesome. That is definitely a magical memory. I love that. And you always want to, you want to take the pictures, but there's some things that you want to just capture in real time and and enjoy. So that's awesome. So what would be your tip then for someone who goes to Disney multiple times?
One of the we did annual passes twice, and there was one year we went down there every time my daughter's school had like President's Weekend or Martin Luther King weekend. Every one of those little 3-day weekends we went. I think we went 12 times in one year, and so we got to do things that we don't normally do. Like I was just saying, we sat on Main Street and did nothing. We went to our resort and spent a day at the resort. There's some amazing things you can discover at those resorts. Like, we love Wilderness Lodge, and you can literally spend all day just exploring that place. So it's, once you've been there for a while, to me, that's even the best thing. Is we keep going back, is taking the time to find those little things at Disney that nobody else sees, because they're so busy running off to make their fast pass at Seven Dwarfs or whatever. Yeah, to be able to explore those little things, that to me is the best thing about it once you've been a few times.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to get to that level. We're going once a year, pretty much going once a year. I want to go so much. I want to go more so much because there's like, I'll be driving and I'll text my wife, not while I'm driving, but I'll text her later and be like, man, I want to go to Disney today. We should move down there. just hopefully the plan is 10 more years when the kids are out of school, then we'll finally we'll make that move.
We're lucky. We're 6 hours away. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. That's perfect. That's not too far. That's not too close in the sense of, I mean, you still, I'm sure, getting some of the heat, but you're not necessarily in Florida in that generic heat that's there. Oh, it's pretty intense there. And I'm from Texas. But it's still overpowers. So I do want to thank you, Paul, for being on, coming on today. It was great having you on. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I feel like there's still so much that we could really talk about and get into. But I know I definitely don't want to take more of your time. I do want to get just one last thing before we sign off here, which is I usually ask everyone. Well, first, my bad. Where would you like everybody to reach out to you first, before we get all serious here? What would you like for people to reach out to you? I mean, pals.com and paulgowder.com. But do you want to, anywhere else, Twitter, anything like that?
Yeah, those are our two main sites, powwows.com, our powwows.com Facebook page, or you can just email me at pgowder@powwows.com.
Awesome. And
That's the
again,
best way to get a hold of me.
I'll have all that in the show notes, guys. Again, and I apologize, Paul, because I just want to get to that like really intense stuff right now. So, so before we do sign off here, I want to ask you if you could leave just some advice, some inspiration, some encouragement to the medic cheers listening. You know, like I said, maybe they're on that tipping point. They have an idea. They have a dream they've had for a while that they just never have actually taken action on, but they're ready to start making that move. What would be some inspiration or encouragement you would share with them?
Sure. I joke to my wife all the time that when I started powwows.com, I started the Star Wars site and I started powwows, and make the joke, gosh, what was I thinking, letting the site about a minority take off? Why didn't I work the Star Wars one? Because that was such a huge market. We would have been Mark Zuckerberg now if the Star Wars had taken off. But really, it's I think powwows can show people. It doesn't matter what everybody wants to do these marketing plans and find out how much reach you can have and how big is your possible sales, whatever. I never thought that there would be this many people out there interested in powwows. But, I think if you tell your story, you'll attract the people that want to hear that story. You'll attract the right people. So it doesn't matter, don't listen to all the marketing stuff that it says, if you don't have 1 million possible reach or 10 million possible reach, or, I hear, like, if you watch Shark Tank, they talk about that all the time. I don't think that's as important on the internet when you're trying to tell your story. It's just more about being authentic and telling a true story, and you'll find a following.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Again, guys, please be sure to reach out. Check out everything he's doing. It's pretty incredible. And I really, really look forward to everything the future has for you, Paul. And hopefully soon we'll get you back on so you can share some more details of what's going on with powwows and, of course, powgowder.com. So thank you for coming on. And if you would do me the honor of joining me in the last bit of segment here, all I need you to do is just say, stay magical. All right, so I'm just gonna say my little sign-off phrase here, and then I do just say that last part. So here we go, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night, day, week, and whenever you're listening to this. And as always,
stay magical.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you. That was great. I really enjoyed it.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.